Welcome back, dear students. Today we are going to learn about fundamental duties as given in our Constitution in Article 51 capital A from Clause A to Clause F. We always talk about our fundamental rights, but very rarely we talk about our fundamental duties also. See the value and impression of fundamental duties in the words of John F. Kennedy. He says, do not ask what the country can do for you, but ask what you can do for the country. Meaning thereby, that country may give you certain rights, but what duties you have followed towards your country. So dear students, part 4th A of our Constitution deals with fundamental duties. You see, India has the lengthiest written constitution in the world. In this, the rights of every person are kept in mind. However, the three organs of the state cannot make this country self-reliant until they get the proper support from citizens as well. So there are certain fundamental duties which are expected from the citizens to be carried out. It is a moral obligation on the citizens to maintain the feeling of patriotism and unity among all citizens of the country. Why there is a need for fundamental duties? Dear students, it is important to understand that no democratic system could ever succeed if the citizens are not willing to participate actively by discharging their duties, which are expected to be done by them. Our Constitution has provided us with various rights, and at the same time, Constitution expects us to perform certain duties in return. Article 51 capital A talks about these fundamental duties, and it contains 11 fundamental duties that are expected to be performed by the citizens. Originally, these duties were 10 in number, and 11th duty was added later on by 86th Constitutional Amendment Act. First, we will discuss these 11 fundamental duties as to what these duties are. We should know that 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976 added 10 fundamental duties to the Indian Constitution by way of addition of Article 51 capital A. When the Constitution was commenced on 26 January 1950, the chapter of fundamental duties was not incorporated in it. It was only by Constitutional 42nd Amendment that 10 fundamental duties were added in our Constitution. Then later on, 86th Constitutional Amendment Act 2002 added 11th fundamental duty in the list. Swarn Singh Committee was appointed in 1976, and on their recommendation, fundamental duties were added in the Constitution. And the necessity of these fundamental duties was felt during internal emergency in the period of 1975 to 77. These duties, truly speaking, are borrowed from Constitution of USSR. They have these duties in their constitution. Now let us see what are the 11 fundamental duties. The first duty, which is expected from citizens, is to abide by Indian Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem. This is the first and foremost fundamental duty of the citizens. Second is to cherish and follow the noble ideals that inspired the national struggle for freedom. Third, to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of the country. Fourth duty is to defend the country and render national services whenever called upon to do so. Fifth, to promote harmony and spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic, and regional or sectional diversities, and to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. Sixth duty is to value and preserve the rich heritage of the country's composite culture. Seventh one is to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. Eighth duty is to develop scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reforms. Eighth duty, dear students, is to safeguard public property and to abjure violence. 10th one is to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activities, so that nation constantly rises to the higher levels of endeavor and achievement. And the 11th and the last duty, which was added by 86 Constitutional Amendment Act of 2002, is to provide opportunities for education of his child or ward between the age of 6 and 14 years. You see, this duty of providing education is a duty of parents, as well as it is a directive principle, and at the same time it is now made a fundamental right also. Now, dear students, what is the importance of fundamental duties which are contained in part 4A of Constitution? You see, these fundamental duties are inalienable part of fundamental rights. And the importance of these fundamental duties is as follows. The first importance is that these duties remind Indian citizens of their duty towards their society, towards their fellow citizens and the nation. Second importance is that they warn citizens against anti-national and anti-social activities. Third importance is that they inspire citizens and promote a sense of discipline and commitment amongst them. Fourth importance is these duties help the courts in examining and determining the constitutional validity of a law. Besides this importance of fundamental duties, there are certain criticisms regarding fundamental duties also. Few authors tend to criticize these fundamental duties also. And these fundamental duties, which are mentioned in part 4A of the Constitution, have been criticized on the following grounds. The first ground of criticism of fundamental duties is that these duties have been described by the critics as a code of morals, precepts due to their non-justiciable character. Their inclusion in the Constitution was described by the critics as superfluous. This is because the duties included in the Constitution as fundamental would be performed by the people, even though they were not incorporated in the Constitution. So this is the first criticism, that since these duties, they have a non-justiciable character, they are merely a code of moral precepts. And citizens are bound to follow these duties, even if they were not incorporated in the Constitution. Second criticism is that some of the fundamental duties are vague, ambiguous, and difficult to be understood by the common man. Third criticism is that the list of duties is not exhaustive, as it does not cover other important duties like everyone should cast vote, every citizen should pay taxes, every citizen should have family planning, and so on. So these duties are not included in the list of fundamental duties. In fact, the duty to pay taxes was recommended by Swarn Singh committee, but it was thought proper by the parliament not to add this duty as constitutional duty under Article 51 capital A. Fourth criticism of these fundamental duties is that critics are of the opinion that inclusion of fundamental duties as an appendage to the part 4A of the Constitution has reduced their value and significance. Why? They should have been added after part 3rd so as to keep them on par with fundamental rights. Now they are part of part 4th A of the Constitution of India. So this is the 4th criticism. And dear students, as I told you in the earlier part of this lecture, that these fundamental duties were added in the Constitution on the recommendation of Swan Singh's committee report. In fact, this committee had recommended more than 10 fundamental duties for incorporation in the Constitution. However, not all were included in the Constitution. The duties recommended by Swan Singh committee, which were not accepted, they were: number 1, citizens to be penalized or punished by the parliament for any non-compliance with or refusal to observe any of the duties. This punishment part was dropped, that citizens are to be penalized or they are to be punished in accordance with law made by the parliament if they do not comply with or if they refuse to observe any of these duties. Second portion which was dropped, that punishment or penalties decided by the parliament shall not be called in question in any court on the ground of infringement of any of the fundamental rights or on the ground of repugnancy or any other provision of the Constitution. This was also dropped. You see, whenever something says, some recommendation says that parliament shall not be called in question, any provision, any punishment, any penalty which is decided by the parliament shall not be called in question in any court on the ground of infringement of fundamental rights or on the ground of repugnancy to any other provision of the Constitution. Such a provision is never liked by the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court always strikes down such a provision which bars the capacity of the court to review the provision. Here also, this provision was dropped by the parliament itself and it was not made part of fundamental duties. Third item which was dropped was duty to pay taxes. So dear students, now let us see features of fundamental duties. These fundamental duties are categorized, can be divided into 2 parts. One is moral duties and second is civic duties. Moral duties means cherishing noble ideals of freedom struggle, and civic duties means respecting the Constitution, the national flag, and national anthem. They essentially contain just a codification of tasks integral to the Indian way of life. Dear students, these fundamental duties are confined to Indian citizens only, and they do not extend to foreigners, unlike a few fundamental rights. And these fundamental duties are also non-justiciable. They are not enforceable through court of law, similar to the directive principles of state policy. And there is no legal sanction against their violation. If the duties are violated, no punishment is provided in the Constitution or any other law for the time being in force. And in case of violation of fundamental duties as enshrined in the Constitution by a citizen, including president, vice president, speaker, parliament members, MPs, state legislative members, it amounts to contempt of the Constitution, which is punishable under Prevention of Insult to National Honor Act 1971. If you do not follow the fundamental duty of respecting your national anthem or national flag, it may be done by anybody else, anybody, right from president to the downtrodden person living in our country, then it amounts to contempt of the Constitution, and this contempt is punishable under Prevention of Insult to National Honors Act 1971. Now, dear students, let us see what is the scope of fundamental duties. You see, there is no direct provision in the Constitution for the enforcement of these duties, nor there is hardly any legal sanction in order to prevent violation of these duties. So these duties are basically obligatory in nature. Following facts provide for the importance of fundamental duties. They are non-justiciable, they are obligatory in nature, but the following facts will tell you the importance of fundamental duties. Number one, a person should respect the fundamental rights and duties equally, because in any case, if the court comes to know that a person who wants his or her rights to be enforced is careless about his or her duties, then the court will not be lenient in his or her case. You are asking for your rights, but you are not obeying your duties. So court may not grant you relief. So this is the importance of fundamental duties. Number two importance is any ambiguous statute can be interpreted with the help of fundamental duties. Fundamental duties are also throwing light like directive principles of state policy whenever the question of interpretation of any statute arises. Third importance is that court can consider the law reasonable if it gives effect to any of the fundamental duties. In this way, the court can save such a law from being declared as unconstitutional because the particular legislation is giving effect to fundamental duties. And once a law is giving effect to fundamental duties, it can be saved from constitutional attack, from being declared as unconstitutional. So dear students, by now it is very much clear that these fundamental duties contained in Article 51, capital A, are considered as directory duties, obligatory duties, as these duties cannot be enforced through writ of mandamus because they do not cast any public duties. Fundamental duties are the basic reminder of our national goals and basic norms of political order. They inspire an individual to inculcate in himself or herself a sense of social responsibility. The fundamental duties can be used to interpret any statute which is uncertain, which is not clear. These duties provide educational and psychological values to the citizens of India, and these duties uphold the spirit of democracy and patriotism. We have a very important leading case here, Uni Krishna versus Union of India, decided by the Supreme Court way back in 1993. In this case, it was held that all the citizens who are below the age of 14 years have a right to free and compulsory education. Fine. Due to an increasing public demand for education, the government worked towards making education a fundamental right. And in 2002, a constitutional amendment was carried out in Article 51, addition of Article 51, capital A. And Article 51K was added after Article 51J, which stated that it is a fundamental duty of every citizen who is a parent or a guardian to provide opportunities for free and compulsory education to a child who is between 6 years to 14 years of age. So this leading case emphasizes the implementation of this fundamental duty of a parent or a guardian to provide opportunities for free and compulsory education to a child who is between 6 to 14 years of age. Then we have MC Mehta versus Union of India. In this case, Supreme Court held that it is compulsory for all educational institutions to organize a teaching lesson of at least 1 hour a week on the protection and improvement of natural environment. And second, it was also held that it is a duty of the central government under Article 51, capital A, clause G, to introduce this lesson in all the educational institutions. So this leading case also highlights the importance of fundamental duty given in Article 51, capital A, subclause G. Third, the central government should also distribute books free of cost on the same subject in all the institutions. This is also the duty of the government to distribute books free of cost. Then fourth, to give rise to consciousness among the people towards a clean environment, the government should organize, keep the city clean a week at least once in a year. Yes, these weeks are being observed by the central government as well as by the state government. You must have seen so many placards, Green Noida, Clean Noida. So that is in implementation of this fundamental duty to keep the environment clean. And government is duly performing its duty to keep the environment clean as far as possible. Then, dear students, so far as the fundamental duties are concerned, we have a very important leading case, that is Bijoy Emmanuel versus State of Kerala. What happened in this case? This case is popularly known as National Anthem case. In this case, on refusing to sing the national anthem in the school, 3 children were expelled from the school. There was a circular that was issued by Director of Instructions, Kerala, which made it compulsory for the school students to sing the national anthem. And these 3 children did not join the singing of national anthem, but they stood up out of respect when the national anthem was being played. They did not sing the national anthem because their religious faith did not permit it, and it was against their religious faith. Now see, it is the fundamental duty of every citizen to respect the national anthem and national flag. But these 3 students did not sing the national anthem. So they were expelled on the ground that they violated their fundamental duties and committed an offense under the Prevention of Insult to National Honors Act 1971. The Supreme Court reversed this decision of the High Court because they did not commit any offense. And also, they committed no crime under Prevention of Insult to National Honors Act 1971, as though they did not sing the national anthem, but they stood out of respect. They were standing when national anthem was played, but they were not singing it. So Supreme Court says that these 3 students did not commit any offense, and the decision of the High Court was reversed. Then we have another case, very important one, All India Institute of Medical Sciences Students Union versus AIIMS itself. This case was decided by the Supreme Court in 2002. In this case, our Supreme Court held that the fundamental duties are equally important like fundamental rights. So the courts strike down the institutional reservation of 33% in AIIMS, which is also coupled with 50% reservation discipline-wise, which was violative of Article 14 of Indian Constitution. The court also said that just because they are duties, they cannot be overlooked. They have the same importance which the fundamental rights have. If you are claiming certain fundamental rights, you are supposed to follow certain fundamental duties also. So they are of equal importance. Supreme Court says that fundamental rights and fundamental duties are of equal importance. See another case, Baba Ramdev's case, Ramlila Maidan incident. The Supreme Court in this case held that a balance has to be maintained between fundamental rights and restrictions on the one hand, and fundamental rights and fundamental duties on the other hand. There would be an imbalance if importance is given only to fundamental rights or to the fundamental duties alone. See, a duty is considered as a true source of right. Right emanates from duty itself. The court considers the fundamental duties that they are present in Article 51 capital A, while examining the reasonableness of legislative restriction on exercise of various freedoms. So dear students, the net result of this case is that we have to maintain a balance between fundamental rights and reasonable restrictions imposed on them on one side and fundamental duties on the other side. See another case, N.K. Vajpayee versus Union of India. In this case, Supreme Court observed that there is a common thread which runs between Part 3rd, Part 4th, and Part 4th A of Indian Constitution. Part 3rd provides us with the fundamental rights, while Part 4th provides us basic principle of governance of the state, and third part, that is Part 4th capital A, provides us fundamental duties of the citizens of India. The court should consider all the constitutional aspects of fundamental rights, fundamental duties, and directive principles of state policy while interpreting any provision, because there is a common thread which runs through all fundamental rights, all fundamental duties, and all directive principles of state policy. So court should keep in mind all these three aspects while interpreting any provision of law. So dear students, if I may conclude today's talk on fundamental duties, so it can be safely concluded that non-enforceability of fundamental duties would not affect its importance. The fundamental duties are an important aspect of democratic state because it not only allows people to enjoy their rights, but also reminds them to perform their duties which they have towards the nation. The word fundamental, which is attached to the duties, makes them of utmost importance, and thus it is required that they are to be followed by every citizen. Many duties have also been set up as a separate law and are made enforceable by law, but this does not reduce the value of other duties which are provided in Article 51 capital A. So dear students, it is not only the duty of the government to provide everything in the constitution. It is the people who should also be conscious about their role in the society. Even duties like paying taxes, right to vote, must be performed by each and every citizen of the nation. These duties inculcate a sense of social responsibility in everyone. So while interpreting the fundamental rights, these fundamental duties are always to be taken into account. And you cannot ignore fundamental duties. They are part and parcel of fundamental rights. And court has to take into account the fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy, and fundamental duties while interpreting any law made by the parliament. So dear students, this is all about the chapter of fundamental duties. We have seen that these fundamental duties are of equal importance as the importance is attached to fundamental rights and to the directive principles of the state policy. So thank you very much, dear students. God bless you all, and you may succeed in your mission of competitive examinations. Thank you very much again.